Good Tuesday afternoon, everyone. I'm meteorologist Jacob Wycoff, joined by our executive weather producer, Terry Eliasen. Terry, the cold and the wind have settled back in. It's a broken record type of forecast.
Yes.
But what we have kind of looking ahead to, we have some ups and downs, bigger than what we've experienced over the past couple of days, too.
Yeah, I think the weather's going to get a little bit more dramatic here in the next 7 to 10 days. Perhaps our biggest cold shot yet coming next week, and a chance for some Martin Luther King Day snowfall action, which it's funny, I was talking to Eric Fisher yesterday, and we did a little winter weather forecast back in November. We had some fun, played some Jeopardy, and Eric mentioned in that forecast, watch for Martin Luther King Day onward, watch out, and just, I mean, we'll see what happens. But, he might have been telling the future a little bit.
There we go. I love that. But first, we want to take you outside to what happened last night. An incredible shot. This is a picture of Mars. Notice little shot of Mars there on the bottom left-hand corner, and then the moon in the foreground. Just incredible stuff.
The coolest thing. I went out last night around 8:30 out with my son, and just at that point they were a little bit farther apart. So of course what happened last night is the moon occulted Mars. It passed in front of Mars for about an hour and 20 minutes, and this is right before it happened. The hard part was with the naked eye. The moon is so much brighter than Mars, something like 40,000 times brighter. As it got closer, you couldn't really see the two.
They just kind of merged.
Exactly, yeah. So you had to get it with like a telescope or binoculars, but just a really cool sight. Hopefully a lot of folks got out to enjoy it. And actually tonight, not quite as close together, but for the next few nights, the moon and Mars will still be up there in the sky.
I got to say that over the last year, we have been just incredibly blessed to be able to just see these astronomical sights. And we're also lucky to be able to bring them to you. You know, think about 100 years ago, they really didn't have the type of technology that we have. So if you get a chance, go outside. The moon's still very bright. We're one day away, one day off of coming off of the full moon, and it's still going to be bright in the sky for the next few days. Pretty cool stuff. So here's what we're watching over the next couple of days. Another shot of cold air from now till like Thursday sort of time frame. Friday we start to moderate a little bit, but Saturday and Sunday is going to be our next chance for precipitation.
Yeah, and here's where it gets a little complicated, and we'll dive deeper into this. We're going to talk a little bit about the cold first and then get deeper into the forecast, but it's a rather complicated, there'll be a frontal boundary stretched really up and down the East Coast and multiple different sort of chances of precipitation coming at us, so going to get a little complicated. But first, the cold, and we've sort of been updating the stat as we go along. We're almost halfway through meteorological winter. Actually, if you did it by days, considering there's only 28 days in February, we may almost be exactly halfway through. We're close. December, January, February, and to this point, it's been the coldest winter thus far in 8 years, or no, 7 years, I guess.
7 years,
but looking back in the history of time, it's still not it's nowhere near one of the top coldest stretches. So it's just, it's cold for where we've been recently, but not cold overall.
Yeah, and that's what I would say is the biggest standout early on, is the persistent cold that we have seen. We haven't had any storms or big storms to tap into some of that cold. We'll see if that changes a little bit. But, you know, when you talk about winter weather, it's a matter of a degree, right?
Absolutely.
If it's 33 degrees, that's cold rain. If it's 31 degrees, that could be some snow.
That's right.
And so that's why temperatures this season matter so much. But one thing that we have been able to do, I did a story last year about just how incredibly warm it's been. And so we weren't able to do some of the backyard rings. We weren't able to ice in for Lake Winnipesaukee. Didn't even occur. It occurred yesterday. So their ice in was yesterday. So you need about 4 inches of thick ice to safely go ice fishing and skating, and obviously the heavier vehicle or heavier device that you use, you're going to need more and more ice.
Yeah, and unfortunately we've had a couple tragic stories recently of folks falling through the ice, and it's easy for us to say, like, you know, go out and measure. I mean, my son goes ice skating with his friends. They play pond hockey. They're probably not going to bring, like I say, bring a drill, test it in different places. Are they doing that? I don't know, but it really is. I know it's been a cold winter, but every pond is different. You know, that depends on the depth, you know, how much wind is,
flow,
everything.
Under it.
So many different variables. So we really would stress that. It's been cold, but it hasn't been that cold, right? So really need to have 4 inches or more thickness, and it really does pay off to bring a drill. Just test it in multiple different places if you're going to be ice skating on it. it's worth the couple of minutes of time it takes.
Yeah, we had the story yesterday about the dog that went into the pond in Wellesley. The owner jumped in. So yes, please just exercise some caution.
Yeah.
So highs heading into Wednesday, we're going to be back into the upper 20s and low 30s. I think a lot of places, especially Boston northward, are going to struggle to get out of the upper 20s, but it's going to feel more like the teens and 20s at times. It's same sort of story heading into Thursday. So we got these back-to-back really chilly days. Eric and I, we call these sort of a cold wave instead of a heat wave, a cold wave. Temperatures 30 degrees or lower, but we're not going to meet that criteria as we go into Friday. So here's your feels like temperatures. This evening, we're back into the teens, even single digits overnight.
We're just ticking through here day after day, single digits, teens, just rinse and repeat right through Thursday morning. We're still feeling the chill. I feel like I feel like every week now, I probably should have done a little more research, but I feel like this is the third or fourth week in a row where we've had like a 3-day stretch of below freezing temperatures and wind chills, like these.
Little homework for us as we get out of here. Perhaps one of the windiest winters that we've seen too.
Yeah, it sure feels like it.
All right, so your forecast high temperatures over the next few days. I want to point your attention to both the weekend, so Saturday, Sunday, we're well above average as you go into Saturday, start to cool down heading into Sunday, and then we get that shot of cool air Sunday night into Monday, and then I think Tuesday is going to be one of the coldest days, perhaps of the season for us, with highs inland, perhaps in the upper teens for our highs.
It looks brutal, and that's not just us. That's across the entire central and eastern part of the United States. A real nasty cold shot coming. But let's focus on the weekend just for a minute here, and that's when all the action's going to happen. So I built 3 different maps. This first map is kind of a wider range, and it's just sort of showing how this frontal boundary goes up from northeastern parts of Canada all the way down to the United States, all the way down into the Gulf of Mexico. And this is just going to kind of breeze through 3 days and just show you how basically this frontal boundary is going to be hanging around the East Coast for 3 days with multiple different storms riding up it. So this and that last one is the one we're really watching for Sunday night and Monday. So zooming in a little bit more here now. So we're going to show you 2 models, and we did this last week, I believe. We're going to show you this first one is the European model, second one is the GFS, and this will just kind of give you an idea of how small little differences in timing and in where this boundary ends up could mean the difference between a pretty good snowstorm for us or very little. So this, again, Euro looking pretty favorable right here.
Absolutely, yeah. The rain-snow line into southeastern Mass, and so most of us picking up some snow with this system. And this is almost right to the benchmark, that I would say. And so this is the GFS model. First storm, Saturday, bringing us some mostly rain. Then we start to see Sunday night into Monday take hold. This is for a little bit further south, and you see that we're missing out on most of it.
Very close, right? I mean, it literally one of these situations where it's much different than what we were talking about for our last couple of storms, because this is, like we showed you, at a very long sort of boundary of storms, and we're just trying to time them all out. When will they arrive? How close will that boundary be to New England when they get here?
Right.
So I feel like we say this every time. It's a complicated forecast, but on a Tuesday, when we're talking about next Monday, really, there's only so much we can say about it.
Right.
Comfortably anyways. And so what we really know now, and this graphic kind of points it out, that frontal boundary will exist, and whatever storm may approach here late in the weekend should be a pretty fast mover. These things are zipping through.
Right, exactly.
But beyond that, how close does it come? Do we get accumulating snowfall? That's stuff that we're going to be working on for a few days.
So if you're in the snow camp and you're like hoping for a big storm, the fact that both models are indicating that this wave will be in the area, I think that's promising, right? But miles matter, and perhaps the GFS is picking up on something that the European model isn't, and it would migrate a little bit further south. We'll fine-tune that forecast as we get a little bit closer. But just the simple fact that both models are showing a system, same sort of time frame, same sort of general precipitation map, that's promising, I would say.
It is, and not to mention Eric Fisher jinxed us back when he did the forecast, mentioning Martin Luther King Day.
That too.
So beyond that, and we've already hinted at it, whether the storm happens or not, or whatever we get for snow, what we do know is that a very large chunk of Arctic air is breaking off next week, and basically anywhere in the upper Midwest and Northeast, probably the coldest stuff we've seen this year.
Yeah, so teens Tuesday, I would say maybe 20 degrees, but feels like temperatures at or below zero. In fact, the CPC has indicated that large portion of the East Coast, it's likely that we see below average temperatures.
Yeah, and this is for the next 1 to 2 weeks. There is some indications that once we hit closer to February, for multiple different reasons, we may shift the pattern a little bit and get a little bit milder. But I almost certainly would say that at this point, it seems like after a cooler than average December, it looks like January is probably going to be a colder than average month overall.
Right.
So pretty unusual. To have 2 below average months here, it doesn't happen that often anymore.
And the other thing I would say is at some point, we're going to have to pay the price for the cold. That's what I would say,
Most
right?
likely, yes.
And in our 7-day forecast, we only really have one chance of that being snow, and that would be on Monday. Our 7-day forecast does feature at or below average temperatures for the next 4 days, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Notice some of those overnight lows in the single digits to teens. Saturday, we moderate a little bit, back into the mid-40s, a few showers here or there. And then Sunday night into Monday, that's when that system should ride right along the coastline and bring us some of that snow.
Yeah, and we'll obviously keep you updated. My guess is that we'll be back here on the stream, chatting about this potential storm. And of course, each and every morning and night, Jason and Eric will bring you the latest. When we know, you will know. We're analyzing every run of every model every day.
Yep.
So as we get closer, we'll keep you informed.
Absolutely. Well, we appreciate you tuning in to this edition of Jacob and Terry's Talk, I suppose. Have a great and safe Tuesday, everyone.